Have you ever had negative thoughts in your mind that you aren't good enough, that you'll never be successful? If so, you're not alone. I've had those thoughts playing in my mind ever since I took the leap to become an entrepreneur. It's a dirty, dark secret that no one likes to talk about, as the glamorization of becoming an entrepreneur is shown in the media. I realized that in order to succeed, I needed help. We all do. So I decided to go all in on myself, spending thousands of hours in the trenches, reading, joining groups, listening to podcasts, hiring coaches to develop a bulletproof morning routine for success. Join me on my journey as together we build our morning fire to ignite our lives as entrepreneurs. My name is Jeff Wickersham, and this is the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. Welcome to the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. I am honored to have guest Gus Castro on the show today. Gus is the founder and CEO of PowerISA. Gus, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So let's get the energy up. We're going to do a 3 power breaths where we're going to breathe in, up from the belly, all the way up, reach our hands and out. Let's breathe in and out. Good. Breath number 2 in and out. One more breath in and out. All right, I'm all about energy. So I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1. We're going to do a power boom, and then we're going to get into it. All right, 3, 2, 1, boom. All right. Gus, so I love morning habits, rituals, routines. That's what I eat, sleep, and breathe, what I do every single day. It's so essential to set you up for success. So what are a couple things, 1 or 2 things you do in the morning to set you down that path towards success?
Well, you know what? One of the things that I do that has helped me so much to gain clarity on what I want to do that day, I actually begin it the night before. I always look at my schedule before. I can't have a good night's sleep without knowing what my schedule looks like the next day. I just make sure I glance at it, and I always write down what is the main goal I want to achieve the next day, right? And how does that tie in to my top 3 goals for the year? And that's usually, it sounds like a big deal. That's a 2-3 minute thing for me, right? What is the number 1 goal I want to achieve the next day? And how does that tie into my overarching goal? And in the morning, it's another couple minute activity where I just look at that again, right? I go to sleep. I go to sleep in sound sleep. I know what I have to do. I understand it. I've taken care of it. You can rest. And then when I wake up, boom, I know what I have to do today. I know what I have to accomplish. And it really sets the whole day for me, the mindset and the energy. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of that, because so many people miss that piece, right? They miss that preparation piece the night before. And if you can prepare, get everything ready to hit the ground running, as well as, to your point, Gus, you said, hey, what is my schedule tomorrow? What are those top things I'm going to accomplish? The mind will kind of work through and navigate through those things you're going to accomplish as you sleep. And then you remind yourself in the morning, and then it's like rocket fuel, right? You know your direction, you know where you're headed, you can execute on those. And I think that's such a vital piece that people miss, right? They just go to sleep just to go to sleep, not necessarily preparing for the success the next day. And that's just a critical component they miss. So I love that. So,
or for me, I worry. I'll worry about, hey, man, do I have to do this the next day? Or I'm a worrier. That's my personality, right? So I know myself. If I don't put myself at ease, I'm not going to get a good night's sleep. I'm not going to be able to get up early before my kids get up in the morning. I'm not going to be able to do all the other things that I need to do if I don't just have that nice, easygoing, just rest. Problems are never going away, but you have a plan. Understand it. Okay, cool. I can take a rest now.
Yeah, that's a good point, that some people suffer from not being able to fall asleep, and they're restless for 35, 45 hour, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because you don't know exactly what's going to happen the next day. You haven't put your mind at ease saying, hey, here's what I'm going to do. And then you might have a more peaceful night's sleep. So that's a great point. So your journey, Microsoft engineer, turned real estate, turned into owning an inside sales agency. Give us a little background on your journey and the trials and tribulations you kind of went through.
Yeah, so I mean, it's always, an interesting case. I love kind of hearing people talk about it because I go, when you're in it, you never know what the next step's going to be. Like Steve Jobs said, you can never connect the dots going forward, right? It's kind of a weird sounding story. I grew up on the border with the U.S. in Mexico, in Tijuana. I went to school in Mexico, grew up in Mexico, but always one foot in the U.S., right? I could literally see it from outside my house. I could see the hills over in Chula Vista in California. And I'm like, man, I had family in the U.S. I'd go there every weekend, go to the movies, go get some lunch. And it was like, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to go, right? So I always try to find ways to go to the U.S. In college, I studied. This was the late '90s when I went to school. So the internet boom was it's at 100%, right? Everything was about the internet. It was going to eat everything. It was going to change everything. And I said, I got to study. That's where I got to study. That's where I got to go because that's my shot. I was good at math. I was always a geek. Academia was my thing. Academics. I was always a high achiever in that sense. And I said, this is my shot, right? So I got and went to one of the top schools in the country on a scholarship. I got the engineering degree, and Microsoft recruited me out of school. That was one of the opportunities of going to a top school was you got noticed by those companies, right? So back then in the '90s, that was the only school these companies recruited from, the whole country, right? So put myself in that situation. I got like a golden ticket, right? Like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka. I made it. I was like, yes. I interned for a couple of summers. I went full time in 2004, and I was set, Jeff. I was like, this is it, man. I'm going to back in. You might not remember this, but in the early 2000s, Microsoft was like Google and Facebook and Amazon combined.
Right.
It was the only game in town for technology. Everything was Microsoft. Xbox, Internet Explorer, MSN.com, if you remember what that was, Hotmail. It was everything had Microsoft on it. So it was a great opportunity. So got there. My wife eventually joined me there. I met her in Mexico. She came up with me. I was set. I had the six-figure salary, the car, the house, the lifestyle, Jeff. It was like the dream job. But there was one issue, right? It was like, it wasn't my dream, right? It wasn't my dream. It was a dream. It just didn't end up being mine, right? It was a combination of my parents' dream, and it was the expectation. It was, it just wasn't my thing. And I kind of knew it early on, but you got so much momentum, so many expectations you want to love to, like, hey, I can do this, man. Again, I'm always a high achiever. So wherever you put me, I'm going to excel. Like, boom, let's do it. I became a manager like my third year at Microsoft. I was climbing the corporate ladder, but these things start to weigh on you, right? It gets a little bit harder to wake up in the morning. It's a little bit harder to get excited about that next project, that next assignment, that next thing you're going to do. You're always on different missions in these corporations. You're on that 1 to 2 year mission. Then you go to the next one. You go to the next one, and it weighed on me. It got harder and harder and harder, and I realized, hey, I'm either going to keep kind of plateau in my career here at Microsoft eventually and just be miserable, or I got to do something different. And I had to make a change, and real estate was what I chose.
And I think you're speaking how so many people feel at times in their lives, and especially in corporate America. I mean, I come from corporate America as well, where you get to a point where, yeah, it's tougher. It's not your purpose. It's not your mission. It's not truly what sparks that fire inside of you every day to jump up, get out of bed, and work and lead, really, at the end of the day. So take me, was there a certain day that you said, you know what, that's it, I've had enough, I've got to make a change? What was that journey, and what was that place and time where you said, that's it, I've got to move?
So it was two things. It's never one thing, right? I don't think it's ever really good one thing. But there was two things that were like, okay, this it's not only this is the how, this is the now, right? This is the now. One, my mom got diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, right? Degenerative disease. It's debilitating. It's going to end your life the way you know it. You become something different, right? So I saw my grandma go through that. Seeing my mom start that process was heartbreaking for me, and for her too. And it made me realize, and she was 65, by the way, like way younger than my grandma got it. And I'm like, Jeff, you always think you have all this time, and you can always put off the thing you want to do, and then you realize, well, maybe I don't have that much time. Maybe the time to do what I've always wanted to do is now. And getting to 65 with regret is the worst case scenario. It's not getting Alzheimer's. It's getting to that age. And why did I never bet on myself? What was the real risk that I was taking? Or when you realize and this, I'm talking about the US, right? Maybe other countries it's different. But in the US, when you realize how little you have to lose by taking those risks, betting on yourself, it's a no-brainer. It's a non-decision. That was one. The second thing was I got a really sucky boss at Microsoft that I didn't like. I'm like, writing is on the wall, guys. Let's make this happen. Let's do it. Let's do it. It was realizing that my own mortality and that I actually had less time, probably had less time than I thought in my life, and then just making and then circumstances at work got really hard. I said, what am I doing here? Right? What are we playing? Let's bet on me. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, and it's so ironic that our paths were very similar. I lost my mom almost, it'll be in a couple days, 6 years ago to breast cancer. And that was one of those moments, punch to the gut, cut at the knees, watching the woman that brought you into this world take her last breath. It shows how fragile life is, right? And then 11 months later, I was told in the company I was working for almost 10 years, you need to relocate here or there. I have 2 young sons growing up in the area. That wasn't happening. So those were my 2 triggers to say, you know what? I want to have fire each and every day. I want to be grateful each and every day. And to your point, time is ticking away. There's not an endless supply. So I try and squeeze every single ounce out of a day. And sometimes I'm exhausted and I fall asleep in a second, but that means it was a full day. And yeah, those are two powerful things. So you pivoted those two triggers, you pivoted into real estate. Tell me a little bit about how the pivot into real estate and then filling a niche and really getting into the kind of inside sales team that you lead today.
Yeah, so I got my foot into real estate because my wife, who comes from an entrepreneurial family, who's like the juggernaut of our team here, and is always and she's a full-time mom, stay-at-home mom, but she is the spark that ignites the fire, right? It has always been that role for me. She got into real estate. She got licensed, and in 2008. So if people don't remember, the world was ending in 2008.
Yeah.
Right. It's like COVID, but stretch out that for like a year and a half. It wasn't as fast as COVID. The market things didn't happen that fast, but it felt like you didn't know what was going to happen the next day. She had a great year. Her first year in real estate was rookie of the year with only about 8 deals. It was 2008. But she got a taste of it. And through her, I got to see another way of being, another industry, another skill set. Where your master's and PhD didn't dictate, your how you were, perceived. It was 100% on your ability, 100% on your skill set, right? So I said, hey, that's really interesting. I want to try more of that. I would help her nights and weekends, and that's when the time came, I jumped 100% to help her out and build her team, and that's where I started building that real estate team. As we were building that team, I think I was there for 3 years. I incorporated a role into our real estate team, which is inside sales agent, right? As you grow and you add leverage, it's buyer's agent, administrative help. That was like my 3rd or 4th hire that I brought into the team. And I was blown away by that role, right? It was the most scalable, efficient part of it, because you've got a person that's trained on scripting, that's trained on everything that the agents don't like to do. Scripting, role play, calling, all these things like combined into one. And I'm like, man, I could really, I saw the need for it in the industry, massive need for me and my team. And I said, I'm going to build a team like this back home in Mexico, right? I can build a team like this, I can do it. And immediately I had 5 other agents in my brokerage sign up with me. Like, Gus, if you're going to do it, I want to, they were calling me, beating my door down. Hey, Gus, if you're doing this, let's make it happen. The easiest clients I've ever gotten in my life. And I was in residential real estate. You got to go out and hunt, right? It's hard. There's 18 other people down the street that do the same thing you do, right? So you got to be out there always looking for people. And in this role, people were coming to me because it was a huge need, and it wasn't being met at a high level anywhere. So I realized quickly, within a year, I was like 90% on the ISA company, PowerISA, and 10% on the real estate team. And now I'm still licensed. I still do a few referral deals a year, or my own personal deals. But I'm 100% focused on this company now.
And that company, when did Power ISA start? 2014, you said, around that?
End of 2015, end of 2015. Yeah.
2015. And now you've scaled up to, I think you told me before we started, 85
full-time employees, 7 figures, and low 7 figures in revenue a year. And we're going up, man. It's from here, to see how big we can make it. So at Microsoft, I never had the feeling of how big can I make this opportunity? How massive can I grow this to its fullest potential, to the fullest of my abilities, right? And in this company, entrepreneurship is giving me that opportunity. With PowerISA, I have no clue how big I'm going to be able to make it, right? It's as big as I can, and as big as the market will bear, right? All those things, and it's a really it's a crazy feeling, and nothing but entrepreneurship can give you that.
Yeah, I always like to ask the question, like, what if I can pull this off and make it into such a massive success, right? And that just gets that curiosity and that question. So Power ISA, inside sales. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about how to convert leads, online leads, into clients, right? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I see my industry, real estate, struggle with the most is this problem of online leads, right? And typically they don't say it's an online lead problem. The comment is, oh, online leads are terrible. They suck, Gus. They're like the worst. I hate them. They're so flaky. Nothing happens. So that's how I usually. That's the situation we put ourselves in. We talk about online leads. Most people hate them. They detest them, right? A lot of agents have built their businesses like me on referral and recommendation. That's how we started. Referral and recommendation, which
Right.
means in technical terms, your conversion rate when you talk to these people is like 80% of the time they're going to work with you. 50% of the time they're going to work with you. 90% of the time, that's what people are used to. Those kind of conversion rates and those kind of, getting technical about it. You
Right.
go to internet leads, right? Which is an unmet lead source, unmet. They don't know who you are. Gus is an agent, couldn't care less.
Right.
What's good for me, right? And the conversion rates at the highest levels are in the single digits to close transactions. And to appointment, an awesome agent can convert out of 100 internet leads, can get 10, maybe 15 appointments, maybe 20, maybe at highest level 20 appointments out of those 100 internet leads. Where they come from. But you go into that world, right? A high performer can get 20, maybe 30 appointments out of that 100. Out of those appointments, at the highest levels, 20 to 30% conversion of clients, if you're skilled at it. So you go from one area, which is 90% conversion, to another one where 30% is elite. And you can see the mismatch of expectations. So people struggle with that, Jeff. That's typically why I see people complain so much about internet leads. It's a different game. They want to play the referral and recommendation game with people that have no idea who they are. And that's never going to work, right? That's the first challenge that I see with internet leads. The second one, that's once you get past that first one, understand it's a different game,
Right.
is you got to put the tools in place to convert them, right? So, and there's 3 things I always recommend people do. 3 things, very basic. Number 1, have something around speed to lead, right? Whether it's an instant text message, put some automation in place, have an ISA, pick up your phone, make those calls as soon as you can. It's not going to, it won't be in 5 minutes. Make the call. It's more important to make the call than it is to have it be within a minute. And I've given up. No, make the call. It's always important, right? Speed to lead. The consumer expects it nowadays. Number 2, okay, 90% of those leads are not going to pick up on the first call, the first attempt.
Right.
That's the game, the way the game works. You have to have some kind of follow-up system in place, right? At the very least, 6 calls within the first week, 6 attempts at contact within the first week that are phone calls. And you can also throw in some text messages in there if you can't make a call every day. See, that's not possible for you. Mix it up with text messages and phone calls, 1 a day, at least that amount, right? As you're following up with these leads. We've seen in the work that we do, if we get 100 internet leads and we want to get a chance to talk to 50% plus 1, like the majority of them, it's 60 days and 16 contact attempts. And these are people from the web. They're just coming in. They have no idea.
Mhm.
They have no idea about anything. If your follow-up game looks nothing like that, there's no chance you're going to talk to enough people. Not possible, right? But at the very least, 6 touches in 6 days. If you want to get a majority of people to actually talk to you or respond to you, it's 16 touches in 60 days. So as close to that as you can get, implement that, right? That's step number 2, the follow-up system. The last one, which is unbelievably important, is when you talk to people, you got to be a pro. You got to have a script. You got to have something to tell them. Get them excited about knowing more about you. Get them excited about working with you. Deliver that, tease them with that massive value that you can provide that only Gus as the agent can do for you, right? So when I was working, real estate, my niche, my value proposition was I was an immigrant to the U.S. in an area where there was a lot of immigrants to the U.S., right? I had worked with big tech. So my sphere were a bunch of engineers making 6 figures, right? Not a bad sphere. I never complained about it, man. And so I sounded, looked, and came from where they came from, right? In a sense. So my value prop was I'm like you. So you should work with me because I know exactly how you work, bro. The follow-ups, the meetings, the type A personality. So that was what I was always pitching. I can help work with you and do this because I'm the best person on the planet to work with you. So find your version of that, right? And drive it home. What is your massive value proposition? What sets you apart? And it's not just a personality. Be specific. How can I win that bidding war with your help? How can you get me that home? Is it access to off-market properties? Access to like these awesome financing options? Be specific, right? We call it the hook. Whatever you're talking about with someone, at the end, you want to build that rapport. There's several steps to it, but at the end of the day, you gotta have an awesome hook because they will not meet with you otherwise. They will not follow up with you otherwise, right? People are busy. They get distracted. They don't care how awesome you are as a person. It's what can you do for them? How does your hook solve any one of their problems that they have, right? How well do you know that prospect that you know what problem they might have? And how does your hook solve that, right? It's a very simple model, but it applies to everything, right? But here it's converting internet leads over the phone, deliver the massive value. People can really forget that, Jeff. It's very easy. When I hear someone try to close for the appointment, like, well, hey, Jeff, when do you have some time to meet with me, right? To do this or that. I'm like, no one has time to meet. Of course they're going to say no to that. Why would I meet with you? You've given me no reason to meet with you. Mm-hmm. The yes to the meeting should be like a no-brainer. You have made it. If you make it a no-brainer, still the majority of people will say no. But you're never going to get to that 20, 30% if you give them a no-brainer yes, an obvious yes, right? Give them an obvious reason to say yes to that appointment, and your conversion rate will get closer to that elite level, right? That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and a couple of things that stood out there. One, having a hook, and then just being passionate about it, right? I think enthusiasm, energy is so infectious, and so much of the world is kind of monotone, and there isn't that out there. So that's going to make you stand out along with your hook. And then 2, what was very interesting was, the follow-up. And I would say that is a total lost art, right? Where, think about it, 6 calls in a week, 6 reach outs in a week for follow-up, but you saw 60 days, 16 touch points in 60 days. And I would question, any of my listeners, anybody watching the show live today, how many times do you reach out to somebody? 16 times in 60 days. And I would say, I know just personally, that doesn't happen. And I would say 99.9% of people, that doesn't happen as well. And that's just a very compelling number. And the amount of touch points you've got to do in that 60 days to convert at a higher level.
Yeah, absolutely. And the follow-up, and you've heard this, phrase, the fortune is in the follow-up. Follow-up is the game. Because without follow-up, you're never going to deliver that script. You're never going to have a chance to do it, right? You're never going to get their attention to make it happen. So, and that's another thing, right? I have right now today, I've got like 3 or 4 people probably left me a voicemail, texted me today, 3 or 4 people that I want to talk to, Jeff. That I'm actually trying to make time. I'll get back to them when I get back to them. I'm busy. I've got kids running around that are in school. I've got a business to run. I've got, Christmas dinner, tomorrow, and all these things going on for sure.
Right.
But they better keep following up with me, right? I do want to speak to them. It's 100%. There's a lot of stuff going on, right? And I see so many people get easily discouraged by that. Oh, I don't want to interrupt folks. Oh, I don't want to get them angry at me. Oh, I don't want to, do all these objections that we kind of put in our own heads. That it's just reluctance to call. It's reluctance to text, reluctance to call, and it's mostly an emotional objection that we come up with ourselves.
I would agree that we feel like, hey, we're bothering somebody, or most times people are so busy they're not even really paying attention. And I've had it in times where they're like, thank you for following up. I've just been too busy. I appreciate your tenacity, your relentlessness. Yeah, let's set up a phone call. Let's talk, all that good stuff. So Gus, amazing value. Where can people find you, or if they're in the real estate game and they want to check out PowerISA, where can they find you?
My website, PowerISA.com, is a great way to reach out to us, and also Facebook. It's where I do a lot of work on Facebook. I go live. I got my own group. Just search for PowerISA within Facebook, and me and my group will pop up. I'd love to continue the conversation there with folks.
Gus, I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks so much.
You got it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Rise, fight, love, repeat. Get after it. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. You now have the knowledge, but without action, knowledge is useless. Choose to act. Choose to step into your greatness and unlock that hero inside of you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review so more entrepreneurs can hear this message. If you absolutely love this podcast, which I hope you do, then share it up with someone you know who might see benefit from it. Become that beacon of change, and together we can impact the world.